Coming up on Finding Better, Matt Landau is joining me, and we're talking about how to bring more heart back into business. With the rise of technology over the last 3 decades, we've gotten so smart, we've forgotten our heart. And we're talking about Matt's experiences in building businesses and injecting that heart and injecting the soul that lifts not only him, but it lifts his company, the communities around him, and the world at large. It's the kind of shot in the arm that we kind of need right now. So thank you for joining us. Please share this. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And Finding Better is where we share real life experiences and wisdom of people who have been there and done that. Because I found that a lot of times, sometimes the best path to success is by following in the footsteps of others who have been there. My guest today is Matt Landau. And we are going to have a wonderful conversation today because we are like soul brothers.
We are.
And in a lot of ways, we look at things the same way. Our topic today, in terms of finding better, is bringing soul and heart back into business. Now, this is a topic that's been near and dear to me because I've always felt like the world of technology has made us so smart that, I've coined a phrase. We've gotten so smart, we've forgotten our heart. And Matt is all about heart. And he's all about bringing heart and soul back into business. And we're going to talk about that because if there's any single thing that could make your life better in terms of finding better, this could be it. And we're going to talk about Matt's journey and what he does to help people. Matt, welcome to Finding Better. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. And I've used your phrase, John.
Have
I've
you?
used your mantra now several
Excellent.
times out in conversations. I say, my friend John has this saying, we've become so smart, we've forgotten our heart, and everybody resonates with it. Everybody clicks.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Because, it's just been about intellect and intelligence, the brain. And what's interesting, Matt, reason why I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today is because, I see for the last 10 years, I've also said that I believe that technology is going to move so far, so fast that it's going to create a renaissance of the heart. And that's what we're starting to see today with the rise of artificial intelligence. But we'll get into all that. Tell us a little bit about your background and tell us a little bit about how you got to what you're doing today, which is so cool.
The phrase that I've been using to connect with people in a way similar to yours is I'll say that business is losing its soul.
Hmm.
And everybody resonates with this. Everybody has some kind of experience with this, kind of knows the feeling. And the next question is, well, how do we reconnect with the soul of our business? And this, of course, opens a huge world of possibilities and lines of discovery. Um, but as for my backstory, community builder has been the through line. So I started off in the vacation rental industry back before the days of Airbnb back in 2006.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I
That
purchased a
was that
vacation.
was that was when fax machines were still being used,
Oh yeah,
right? Fax
we were
machines and
faxing.
wiring money and
Oh yeah.
Craigslist sort of
Yeah.
was starting back then. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the early days, the foundational days for me. I purchased the vacation rental company in the historic district of Panama City, Panama. Not to be confused with Panama City, Florida, John.
Panama City in the country of Panama.
That's right. And the
Okay,
historic
that's
district, nonetheless, a
okay.
UNESCO World Heritage neighborhood that I just fell in love with. And at the time, we were the only place to stay in town.
Okay.
So if you were a guest that came to Casco Viejo between the years of 2006 to 2010, you stayed with us.
Okay.
And we had
Okay.
no business hosting guests in a foreign country. And I say we, my business partner and I were right out of college. We didn't know what the heck we were doing.
So how did that happen? How did it happen that you ended up buying a vacation rental company or running a vacation rental company in Panama City, Panama?
I had moved down to Costa Rica to work for an alumni from my school, the University of Richmond. He had hit the dot-com and the ecotourism boom of Costa Rica perfectly. And his
Mm,
travel agency hired me right out of school to go do an internship in Costa Rica. I got a taste for the tropics very quickly. I decided going to the big city and climbing the corporate ladder is not for me. And it was right around 6 months into my time in Costa Rica that people said, you got to check out Panama. We think you would love Panama. And this neighborhood in particular in Panama City, which ended up being this, I fell in love. I fell in love with the
nice.
neighborhood upon visiting. And
Wow.
there was only one place to stay. It was a little fleet of vacation rentals. And I stayed in it. I didn't even know that that was an industry at the time. But this vacation rental property gave me a window into the culture and the community of Casco Viejo in a way that really moved me.
Huh.
And I formed this wonderful relationship with the owners of the vacation rental company. And one thing led to another. They were leaving the country. They offered to sell me the business. And poof, without any formal training, I was hosting guests in the historic district of Panama.
Whoa. Okay. So that's called trial by fire.
Trial and error, learning
Yeah.
things the hard way, documenting what was working and what wasn't. I've always
Yeah.
been really keen on that.
Yeah.
Nothing prepared me for what would happen next.
Okay.
The rival street gangs of our neighborhood were getting out of control. The government wasn't going to do anything about it. And it was clearly a vicious cycle that was not going to resolve itself. And so, together with a fellow business owner,
And now when you're talking about gangs, I mean, are we talking about what I think about in South American, Central American kinds of gangs?
not quite so intense. These guys are
Okay.
like street gangs. They're not
Okay.
developed cartels. They're
Okay.
just
It's not
born
the
in the wrong
Sinaloa card.
place. No,
Got it.
no
Got it. Got it.
Sinaloa
Got it.
cartel. But
Street
what
gangs.
street gangs, which eventually
Yep.
turn into cartels. So
Right.
there's
Right.
real,
Exactly.
there's potential there. And I
Yeah.
think on
At this point, they're lost boys for sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
And what we just found most interesting is that they were asking for opportunity. They were asking to be part of the growth of our neighborhood. And that just seemed like too important of opportunity to pass up. And so
Wow.
we built this program that incorporated these guys back into the community through entrepreneurship.
Seriously. So
Seriously.
what was tell us what was the program about? How just describe it real quick.
The program was about preserving the dynamics of a gang, whereas a lot of organizations would completely destroy and demobilize. Our efforts were to preserve what actually made that unit a tight-knit human unit, relationships, strengths, hierarchies in some cases.
Hmm.
And we decided to channel those dynamics in a pro-social way. So we worked directly with the gang leaders who would call all the shots, no pun intended, to have all of the
Okay.
members attending class for our 10-week intervention program. And these members have strengths. They hustle. They have street smarts. They can read people. They have great sales
Yeah.
skills.
Okay.
And it just so happened that the gang leaders didn't want to go work for anyone else. They wanted to start their own businesses. And that was the nexus of the social venture club that we built, which funded the gang leaders in their new businesses. And several of them became wildly successful. One of them was a former walking tour of the Red Zone. That one got featured by like Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast. We had another guy who,
What?
yes, this is extraordinary tourism. Now think about this as a part of my business
Wow.
development.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
reincorporating the very members that made our neighborhood so unique, but in a way that guests could actually enjoy them.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. The thing, okay, getting over the amazing part of it. I skip right to how do you scale that? How do you take that kind and I know that this is not part of the podcast, but this is something I'd love to talk with you about at a later time. But how do you take, I mean, there's so much need for something like that, right? There's so many people out there. There's so much need. And I mean, of just people who want a chance, who want an opportunity. I mean, holy cow. I mean, that is so awesome, Matt.
thank
That's
you. Yeah.
wonderful.
And if it taught me anything, and I think this is like really come into focus in these latest chapters of my life,
Yeah,
it's that you got to make some bold moves as a leader, and you have to step into a new level of human connection, connection with yourself, deep meaning, what's really important to you. What's your vision? Like, I think back to your point about AI becoming this noisy and fast-paced element of society is just really nudging us inwards. And I have just found that
exactly.
I'm inspired by this. I'm
Yes.
inspired by people who are willing to take those kind of bets and lead with that energy. And that's maybe why we're soul brothers.
And that's, what you just said, what I was talking about earlier about the Renaissance of the heart, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And from that perspective, it's really exciting. It's really exciting, because people, and like you said, I mean, some of the things that we've gotten so smart, we've forgotten our heart, and business has lost its soul. I mean, those words are resonating with people because of a reason.
Yeah.
And that is because we're all feeling it, and we're all
Yes.
feeling like, you know, we number one, is there something out there that we can turn to? And number two, how can we help make things better? You know, there's armies of people out there that are just looking for their way, like your street gangs,
Yes.
right?
I'm thinking about it as looking for clarity.
Yeah,
Looking for clarity as a leader in this completely unpredictable world. What is my vision forward? And taking into account that everything is going to be changing, how do I want to lead others? That's like a whole new capacity for me to develop as a leader. And I think it's starting to be true across business verticals.
okay, so let me back up a little bit because you skipped right to leader. Okay, there's a lot of people out there who are like, well, I'm not a leader, um, and what does that mean? My view is that everybody's a leader. You are at some point in time leading people, whether it be your family through a mall or whether it be, a bunch of people through Disneyland or ski. I mean, we're all in a leadership position at some point in time, right? And so I didn't want to skip over that and lose some folks who might have said, "Well, I'm not into leadership." You
For me,
kind of are,
for
yeah.
me, it's a mindset.
Okay,
It's a mindset of leading people clearly. So for me, it was a matter of leading my relationships more clearly. My relationship with my business partners, my relationships with my team, my relationships with my friends, my relationships with a girlfriend at the time, my relationships with my parents. And being able to lead those relationships more clearly is merely, that's a mindset shift. You got to think of yourself leading clearly. And if you don't want to go the leadership route, you could just think about being a protagonist in the story.
Okay, what does that mean?
Writing your story as opposed to
Okay.
being a victim. This is what I learned in the gangs.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
it's so easy to point fingers at everyone else
No
and
kidding.
become part of their story. It's much more difficult, but also way more powerful to start writing your own story. And
You
that's
know,
leadership for me.
it is. You know, the old saying, lead by example. Whether it be a good example or a bad example, you are leading by example. And so
Totally.
your your point about leading with clarity is so right on. And I also want to make one more quick point about your victim thing. You know, stop pointing fingers at people. I wrote that book, American Grit. It's about the Japanese American concentration camps, and I wrote it to help remind people and make sure we don't forget that experience that happened. But the underlying story about it is that a lot of these people who were thrown into these camps, they didn't blame anybody. They refused to be victims.
Mm.
And instead they took responsibility for their circumstances, even though they had nothing to do with it. And they went out and changed the world. They volunteered to fight for the United States Army, who put them and their families in those camps to begin with. They refused to be victims, and they went out, and a lot of them died during the war, but became among the most decorated war heroes in the history of the country. So I love that. I love that thread of leadership, and don't be pointing fingers. Because you disempower yourself. When you do that and you blame others, you are giving somebody else your power to get things done, right?
And I think like I'm looking at okay, so how do I do this? What's the skill that I
Yeah.
practice to do more of
Yeah.
this? And I think it's authenticity. I think it's creativity and authenticity and having a stronger, more original stance, take, view on things, important things, developing my own style, my own personality, not copycatting and just following others, but actually like stepping into something new for me. I just think those are two business values, creativity and authenticity, that don't get talked about nearly enough in business.
I
And if they
agree.
do, it's kind of cliche. We're not actually peeling back the layers and asking, like, how can we be more creative leaders? How can we be more authentic leaders?
You know, what strikes me when you talk about authenticity, aside from the fact that I think you're absolutely right, is that authenticity is really hard. It's hard to be your authentic self because in order to do that, you have to put yourself out there and you have to be willing to be vulnerable, right? Because if you're out there showing the world the real you, we all wear masks. We all wear a mask at work and a mask with our friends, and we all carry different masks. Um, but it can be really hard. And the thing that I've always admired about you, Matt, is that what you see is what you get with Matt Landau. It really is, right? And there's no underlying or agenda or anything like that. And so tell us that part of it. Okay, so because it's scary to be vulnerable, to let yourself be vulnerable.
I think I needed to be more honest with
Okay,
myself.
interesting.
And I was pretty good at sitting in the back seat casually as a passenger
Hmm.
with business partners. I would find really bright business partners, and then I would sit in the back seat and let them drive. And it just
Okay.
so happened that they weren't working out over the long haul. And I was like, dang it, why are these not working? And it was frustrating. But it was because I hadn't really identified this pattern, let's say, this lack of vision, lack of leadership. I was in a very reactive place. And I think for me, being more honest with myself in that sense and saying, like, I do want a higher quality of business partnership. I do want greater alignment. I do want better. That's why I love the name of this podcast, Finding Better, is like it can be better in anything that you want, right?
And everything. Yep.
And everything.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like I want that, but I don't know how. And that was a huge turning point for me, recognizing that I wanted something better, but I didn't know how.
And giving yourself permission to want better.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I also find I found in this journey with this podcast is that, some people will talk to me and they'll say, you know what, I don't deserve better, you know, and which is a whole nother thing. It's a whole
Yeah.
nother thing. But I love having this conversation because you came to this realization that you wanted better, that sitting in the back seat wasn't good enough, right? And then you decided to do something about it.
And I think I had had glimmers of it. I had these little momentary like glimpses of, oh, wow, this is what better, it could be better. This is how it could be better. Or this was a moment in which could be even more beautiful or even more fulfilling. I could be even happier. I could be even healthier. Like I had these little glimpses, but I don't think I was aware that that could become the
Y-
standard.
Your life, I love it. Your
Yeah,
life,
my
right?
life.
So as you're going around talking with people about this, because I know you talk to a lot of people and you're helping people along their journey of finding their own authenticity and and their own soul, if you will. How do you do that? How do you create that hope and the belief that better is possible?
Mm. I try first to just lead with my own experience. I try
Okay?
first to be really open and honest and clear, and it almost gives me like an excuse to be on the journey myself because I'm sharing it as
Hmm.
it unfolds. So I think first of all, creating a space where the tone is set to be honest and to be curious and to be ourselves. And that is very simply a rare thing these days.
It is. It is.
There's so much noise, there's so much to do, we're so busy, we're so distracted, we have so many devices and alerts and notifications and emails and all these things. It's so rare and precious to step away from the grind and to just center yourself with some discussion, some kind of focus. And that's kind of the thesis for the way that I walk people through this discovery process. It's let's step away from the grind, literally, like let's go somewhere in the wild, but also figuratively, like let's detach from the reality, suspend reality as we know it, just for our time here. And let's exercise our imagination a bit. And let's challenge one another intellectually to go places we haven't gone before. Let me ask you a question you haven't been asked before. Let me challenge you to sit with yourself and meditate in a way that you haven't before. And all of these things, for me, were just like cultivating, they were just opening up the chance to connect more deeply with myself. And this became a practice that I doubled down on for myself. And I find my meditating and my immersing myself in nature and challenging myself intellectually, like those are now priorities for me in my life. They help me find better. But I suppose the how do we do it is we try to share a little bit of that journey, that energy, which is very different with people who are curious and who want to explore. I think that's the 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 common denominator of everybody is they're curious and they want to grow.
You know, I didn't interrupt anything that you just said because I just wanted you to talk. And one of the things that I've learned in my life that I find a lot of people are looking for is that happiness isn't out there, right? Happiness isn't. out there to search for. The meaning of life is not out there for you to search for. Everything you need in your life and all the answers are right here. And right here, exactly. It's in your heart, it's inside. It's inside you. And I thought that what you were just saying was really beautiful because that's the journey that you went on and that you've been on and you continue to be on is a journey to you, right?
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah. Totally.
And what you're trying to help people do is to take that journey to themselves, just like you took your journey to yourself. And what I see from that, and now I am now connecting dots, so tell me if I'm wrong, is that when you plant that seed in a person and you help that person and you lift that person, that then goes out, right? It becomes a kind of energy that I would imagine that person discovers and shares with others.
It's magnetic.
That's the word I'm thinking about.
It's
It's magnetic.
it's unfathomably magnetic in a way that I have never experienced before.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think I know what that means. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that? Um,
What do you mean by magnetic?
as a linear businessman, I don't think I would have recognized this a couple years back. But I can now share some very tangible outcomes or benefits.
Hmm.
I read rooms now with a kind of, it feels like a supervision, a super kind of like reading energies, reading people. When I enter into a business pitch, I will have envisioned how it's going to go down.
Okay.
And having envisioned that, I have experienced it, and I enter having experienced it, and that's the way it goes down. Like that's magnetic to me. There's something energetic about that. And I couldn't quantify it for you. I can only tell you the way it feels. It feels like a kind of momentum and clarity and excitement that just oozes. Like people want to be part of it. Maybe that's not the right
Yeah.
word. But it's just like it has tangible results in the real world. And
You
I
know,
couldn't have fathomed that.
we all know people who who walk into a room and brighten it up the moment they step into it,
Yeah.
right? And there's something about those people, whether it be their energy or what's going on with them, that's magnetic. That's magnetic. And aside from, the president of the company or something like that, right? I'm just talking about people we know
Yeah.
who walk into a room and just seem to brighten the whole place. Um,
And they have a kind of confidence that
yeah,
you just trust. You're like, I want to go with this person. I want to explore this person. Like it's a kind of confidence that for me is really key in leadership right now, where so much is changing and you can't pretend to know everything. And like you said, you had a wonderful conversation with Jen, if I'm not mistaken, about performance,
hmm,
right? And like this is the new performance. This is like a kind of like capacity for me that is just a top priority.
that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So, what do you do these days? Because you've dedicated your life to this.
I have started helping leaders with their next creative breakthrough in a couple different forms. So one form is in person, been hosting these retreats. I've now hosted almost 20 retreats over the last 2.5 years.
Wow.
Um, and these are just leaders from different verticals who are looking to grow in creative ways. And they're really special learning experiences. I'm also working directly with teams. So there's a lot of people who will attend one of the retreats and say, "Hey, can you come and host one of these
There you go.
for
There
our
you
team?"
go.
And I was like, "Of course, I could totally do that. I would be great at that." And it just so happens that I go to the team and we have the exact same experience. And then the people on the team are like, "Hey, can you come and do this here?" So that's just become a whole new exciting product line for me that I wouldn't have been able to imagine in the past. I never like vision boarded this.
It doesn't sound like you're having fun though.
I mean, it all starts with fun ultimately. Like I was like, how do I get excited and have more fun again like I used to? And this was a very circuitous way of getting there.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
That is amazing. You know, you put the energy out there. There is something to the universe, right? And you take that step and you keep stepping and you keep following and just stuff happens. And you made it happen for you and for others, which is amazing.
there was an important part of the process for me seeing examples of this type of creative leadership in action,
Hmm.
aspiring to other leaders who are leading with their heart. And we talk about, I know our mutual friend Steve Schwab is a wonderful example who runs almost like a sacred kind of business with his values and his integrity and the culture that he has created. It's about so much more than the transaction.
And
It's about,
he has created a huge business, a huge successful business where his employees are amazing. They love their work. Their customers love them. It's just in a lot of ways business done right. You
amen.
know, a lot of
And so
heart.
like, let's showcase the Steves and let's get the Steves and all of the other people who are doing these kinds of things. I wanted to get them together under a virtual roof. And this was kind of like the third piece of this new venture for me. It's like I want to build a community around more creative leadership. I want to showcase examples and share best practices and breakthroughs and failures with people, with one another who are all looking to make this level of shift. Because for me personally, it's just kind of like lonely in a way. Like not having a whole lot of people. Like, John, you're one of the few people I can talk about this level of business development with. And I just want more Johns in my life. I want more Steves in my life. So, like, it's the natural evolution of my community building is like, this is what I want to build. I want to build something that's different and that leads with that creative juice, with the heart.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And you are doing it. You are doing it. Um, okay. What do you want to leave this audience with?
Hope.
Hope. Good.
I want to leave this audience with hope that there is a way forward that is beautiful and authentic and real and local and I think just human. And all these things that are like distracting us and all the headlines about AI, all the changes in our marketplaces, all of the political, unrest is very overwhelming for me. And it's very depressing at times. It's like, well, what future is there if everything is completely uncertain? And the hope that I would love to leave our audience with is that you can double down on yourself and your vision and lead others, whether it's one person or 10 people or every person that you meet, with a new level of love. And that's a beautiful path.
It is an unbelievably beautiful path. And, it's all about love. I've said that too. It's all about love. But the thing, you know, hope is good. Um, and I want to bring that down to the audience and down to every person who's listening. Because, the fact of the matter is, Matt talked about all of the distractions, all of the noise. And, I don't think there's many people out there who would disagree with this statement that a lot of the world is really unhinged. And, the fact of the matter is, we can focus on all that stuff, but then you ask yourself, how productive is that? And, we can focus externally. What we're talking about is to take your focus, take your energy, and turn it around and focus it on you. Focus it on you. Focus it on your heart. Because you know what? A better you lifts the world. And as Matt talked about, he took that first step in his journey, and now look where he is. I mean, he is changing people's hearts. He's bringing soul back into business. He didn't know how he was going to do it. But I mean, if he focused on everything that was unhinged out there all the time, Matt, would you be where you are right now?
I would have lost all my hair by now.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Wait, I see the one. I see the one. Okay, got it. Got it. Got it. No, but it's so true. So true. Matt, you're so inspirational. Not only because of what you did for yourself, but because of what you're doing to help others follow in your footsteps and take their own journey, to discovering without sounding cliche, discovering themselves, right?
Amen.
Because as we move forward, folks, do you think the level of noise is going to subside? Do you think the unhingedness of this planet is going to get better? Right? It will get better, but it starts with you. Matt, I'm going to end with this. I don't know if you heard the old song, Let There Be Peace on Earth. Did you hear that? You know that song, Let There Be
Sure.
Peace on Earth, and let it begin with me. For years and years and years, I thought to myself, let there be world peace. And let me be the trigger to world peace. Maybe the wrong word for world peace. But anyway, um, but let it begin with me. And a few years ago, I realized that I was totally interpreting that those words wrong. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. And what I realized was that peace on earth begins with we as individuals finding peace in ourselves. And and that's part of the reason why I start this podcast, right? Because the idea if you lift one person, you do lift the world. And what you're doing, Matt, is amazing. It's amazing. You're taking your experience, you're taking your authenticity, you're taking your vulnerability, and you're helping other people with it. So with that, how do people get more information? I mean, your information is listed on the podcast, but how can people reach you to get more information?
I'm very proud of the domain name that I secured.
Cool.
Heregoesnothing.com without the G. I was very fortunate that when I said this phrase to myself at a very pivotal moment in this journey, and it worked. And I went home and I looked on GoDaddy, is heregoesnothing.com available? And it was available. I took that as a sign. And
That's
so I
wonderful.
secured that domain for $12.99. So that website is now up and running. I'm very excited about that. You can also just email me at Matt with two T's at heregoesnothing.com.
Here goes nothing. NUTHIN.com. All right.
Nothin.
Oh, NOTH.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good point. I never heard anyone misspell it that way, but I should clarify.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I spell nothing with a U, and but that's just me. I'm probably the only person on the
You
planet
should
that.
go buy the domain name, John.
Yeah. Well, listen, Matt, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you. God bless you. Thank you for all that you're doing to try to make the world better and bring soul back into business.
Big
And
one.
everybody out there, check this out. Check out what Matt is doing. Go to heregoesnothing.com and share this. Share this because we have hope. We have hope. We're out there trying to make the world better. And hopefully you learned something from this. Hopefully the stuff that we're doing will help you live a better life. And we're going to keep on going. So with that, thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.